Yeah.
Welcome to the first meeting of December of the Torrington City Council. Thank you all for coming. We're glad you're here. I'll call the meeting to order, and before we go any further with that, I want to thank Ryan and Grant Caith for putting us on live 99.9 FM and also on the YouTube channel, and also Cindy Shealy with the Torrington Telegram. Thank you for covering us. Very good. All right, first order of business will be the pledge, and Dennis, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. First item that we have is employee recognition, and we're here to present an award to Sylvia Naya. Sylvia has earned the Certified Municipal Clerk designation from the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. Clerk Treasurer Strecker.
If you would come to join me down here.
Sure.
So the Certified Municipal Clerk Program is designed to enhance the job performance of the clerk in small and large municipalities across the globe. To earn this designation, a municipal clerk must attend extensive education programs. Sylvia attended 120 hours of education for this certification, and it also requires pertinent experience in a municipality. The CMC program prepares you to meet the challenges of a complex role of a municipal clerk by providing you with quality education in partnership with institutions of higher learning, as well as local clerk associations. This program has been in existence since 1970, and currently there are about 4,500 certified municipal clerks worldwide. So I am so proud of her. She's worked very hard, and she's earned this from the International Institute of Municipal Clerks.
Oh, thank you.
Do you want to say anything else about what you all did or anything? Or?
Speech.
Okay. Can you get our picture?
That's a lot of time. Holy cow. Way to go.
That's fine. They're coming up here.
Oh,
We're going to come up here.
Oh, that's, oh, great.
Guess.
Squeeze in.
Come on in.
oh, you want to say
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Cindy.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Get your chair back.
Way to go, Sal.
That's a big honor and a big step toward where she might be going in the near future. Congratulations, Sylvia.
Thank you.
Okay, next is information. Just in case you haven't noticed, winter weather is upon us. After a great fall, we're now into colder times and we'll be fully into winter season later this month. As we move forward into 3 months of more snowy conditions, we'd encourage you to be careful navigating the often slick city streets. This is a busy and sometimes stressful time of the year with many holiday activities. These people leading up to Christmas. Let's be sure to keep ourselves and our families safe. As of noon today, December 6th, there are 24 new positive COVID cases that can officially be reported this week, and another 8 were reported since noon, so it's really on the rise at this point. There are currently 2 people being treated at community hospital for a COVID-related illness. Also, the medical community is being inundated at this time with people being diagnosed with influenza A. Be careful, take care of yourselves as the flu and likely increased levels of COVID will probably be with us until spring. Our community risk level has once again been elevated to the high level. Public Health held a vaccination clinic today in the Pony Express room, and the next one will be scheduled for Tuesday the 20th. call public health for an appointment at the next available clinic. We continue to ask everyone to be aware of our children, our parents, buses, and the activity that is taking place in and around our schools. With the recent snow and subsequent slick streets glowing down, makes very good sense. Driving going forward the next few months is likely to be difficult. Slow down, put your phone down, and refrain from talking and texting while driving in our community. The city, with the support of the Rotary Club and the Goshen County Recreation Board, will be adding additional crosswalks across and along the city Rotary walking path. Please slow down in those areas as work is being completed. Remember to take your separated paper products, cardboard, and your aluminum and steel cans to Elk EcoCycle. They remain open through Monday through Wednesday, from 8 o'clock till 4 in the afternoon for your convenience. In less than a month, Herb Doby will take over as mayor, and Wayne Deal and Shane Victron will be in their new council seats. All three will be sworn in at the January 3rd City Council meeting. They will join Councilman Rick Patterson and Councilman Dennis Kelly to round out the new council. At the November business meeting of Goshen County Economic Development, Michael Schuler, a soon-to-become journeyman lineman with the City of Torrington in the electrical department, won the award for Community Volunteer of the Year. And Torrington Police Chief Matt Johnson was recognized for his efforts last summer in making the summer concert series a successful community event. Tomorrow, Wednesday, December 7th, the VFW is changing the name of their post. Going forward, the post will be named Paul A. Johnson, Harold Bandemer Post number 2918. Only recently did the VFW become aware that Harold Bandemer was the first Goshen County service member to die in World War II. He died as a victim of the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. Tomorrow, Councilman Kelly, Patterson, Kinney, and I will be attending the ceremony Wednesday evening at the post. City of Torrington Water and Wastewater Department and the City of Torrington Streets and Sanitation Department are partnering with Goshen County Conservation District in providing Household Waste Removal Day. The three entities work well together to provide an opportunity for the community to dispose of their hazardous household waste, thereby keeping it out of the water table. Thanks to Ed Hawley and to Tom Troxel for working with the county on this project. That concludes the information items for tonight. Okay. Next item is to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from the November 15th, 2022 City Council meeting as published.
I'd move to approve the consent agenda as published.
Councilman Kinney, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Kelly, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We've approved the consent agenda. Next item is to approve the agenda. There are no additions or corrections or changes to the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Councilwoman Steinbach, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Patterson, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have unanimously approved the agenda. Nothing in public forum, so we'll move to action items. The first action item tonight is Buck Lamola is here with a request to remove the stop signs recently placed on Albany Avenue. Buck, you want to come up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for indulging me yet one more time. At the last council meeting, we discussed the placement of the signs, and most of the conversation took place between the mayor and I as far as the rationale behind that and what we were planning on doing moving forward. I sent each of you a letter addressing my concerns from an engineering aspect with respect to the manual uniform traffic control devices, and I guess I'd like to elaborate on that just a little bit. The reason that the manual uniform traffic control devices exist is it's a federal highway administration document, and certainly you would like to see the same signs, laws, things like that from state to state or city to city. It would be very frustrating to drive in another state if their signage or your driver expectation was totally different than what you were used to at home. and that's why there's a standard. That standard is not only a guideline for the state or the department, it's a federal guideline. In that letter, I pointed out that the city's statutes are really silent with respect to that. Ordinance 1004.010, you don't have a copy of that one. You got 10.8 and 10.10. 10.04.010 says the city hereby adopts by reference Chapter 5 of Title 31 of the Wyoming State Statutes in its entirety, excluding 31.5-233. The statute that I pointed out to everybody in the letter that I sent was statute 35-5-112, which is certainly falls within that ordinance. So by your own ordinance and in absence of any other traffic control manual, you essentially agree to follow the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And in that manual, it points out conditions to warrant changes in traffic signage. In every instance, nearly without exception, the primary responsibility is to perform an engineering study, or at least have an engineering recommendation as to a rationale behind the placement of that device. Now, statute 10.08.010, or ordinance 10.08.010, traffic signs and devices authorized, it says the city shall install and maintain all traffic signs and devices deemed appropriate by the governing body of the city to help regulate the safe flow of traffic in the city. So by statute, you're to follow the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. By ordinance, it's up to the governing board to ensure and regulate that. I don't know that there's any discussion or argument on that the city council has the authority to regulate traffic control. Okay, so I guess where I would like to begin is by asking for the other side of the story. I mean, I have my side of the story in looking at things and what's gone on. I would like to hear from the council the conversation that they had when they moved to approve the placement of those signs.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
we didn't move to approve that, that individual sign. It's been my experience, I've talked, since this has come up, I've talked to any number of people here in the community. And the interesting thing is, except for you, I have yet to find one single person that thinks putting a sign there is a bad idea. Now, I realize that is not what the Uniform Traffic Control Devices and Highways says, you know, how we do things. And that's not proper research, and I acknowledge that. But it seems to be the consensus of the members of the community, and that is something I take very seriously, that there is a need for traffic control there. There are a lot of problems in the summer, and we need to slow things down. Again, I've read this. You realize, too, this is not binding, right? This is not a law.
No, I understand that.
It's a manual.
Right.
It's a guideline.
Right.
Okay, so we can take that and say, the city ordinances make it very clear, it's on this body, and we can do it however we choose to do it. We couldn't possibly do a full engineering study for every placement of a stop sign. My God, what would that cost?
Well, the bulk of those signs are already in place, aren't they?
Every time.
And that sign would be placed,
I'm not finished.
oh, I'm sorry.
What I'm saying is that from time to time, we have to move signs. We have to change signs. The city grows and expands and so on and so forth. Traffic patterns change. When there's a big one, I suspect that probably a traffic study would be justified. But we're talking about one street where there is a clear problem. All you have to do is go over there and watch the soccer games as a grandparent, as I've done any number of times, and watch the kids running back and forth and the cars zipping in and out, and it's just a mess over there. And as I said before, I think it needs a systematic study, and maybe the sign belongs there, maybe it doesn't, but it would be ludicrous for us to pull that sign now, do a study, and find out we have to put it in that it should have been there. That would be absolutely ludicrous to do that. I mean, I don't know much, but I know about psychology and human behavior. And if you add a sign, take a sign away, put it back, that just causes problems. That's why I believe the state quit putting up those signs that say the speed limit here is 20 when a school is in session, and replace those with flashing lights so people know. So they're not changing the signs all the time. So that's my position.
Okay, and I guess I keep hearing that there's all these problems and we've tried all these different solutions and this is the best solution that we could come up with. And that's what I'm asking. I'm asking what the council discussed as far as solutions. What solutions were employed prior to that? Were there any pedestrian signs put up? If in fact the problem is pedestrian related, as the mayor is saying, from a safety aspect, we worry about the pedestrians. Were there any pedestrian signs that were put up? Any advanced warning? There are several signs out there in the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is why it exists, to bring attention to pedestrian traffic in the instance where there is no crosswalk. Since there is no sidewalk, there is no crosswalk, those signs would be appropriate to put in. Did we try that to make things work?
To the best of my knowledge, Buck, that has not been
Yeah,
done.
none of that's been tried. Any parking type regulations to try to fix some of the congestion in there, because it is a problem. I live there, I have to drive through there during those soccer games. And I have to get from point A to point B somehow through that gauntlet. So I understand it. And most of the time, the traffic that's going through all the cars that are blocking the street is traveling more at the speed of 5 miles an hour, not 25 miles an hour. And so since there is no study, and since there's not a lot of expertise with respect to installation of what the Federal Highway Administration and the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices refers to as unwarranted signs, I provided you a copy of a study that was initiated by the Federal Highway Administration. Now, this is an old study. It ultimately changed the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices with respect to statements like stop signs shall not be used to control speeds. Okay, that came out of this study. And I'd like to read the parts that I highlighted. The Federal Highway Administration initiated a national study, A, to develop and test procedures to convert multi-way stop sign controlled intersections to two-way stop sign controlled intersections, and B, to document the safety effects of converting multi-way stop controls to two-way controls. In this paper, the study is summarized and the results are presented in the form of recommended conversion procedures. Now, this is a little bit different than what we're talking about. It was a study on looking at long-standing four-way stop signs that shouldn't really have been four-way stop signs. But the premise is still there. It says the emphasis of the study has been on the safety aspects of the conversion process. And that's really not what we're talking about. It's whether or not the four-way stop condition is justified. It goes on to say, within the past few decades, there has been an increase in the use of multi-way stop signs as a traffic control scheme at many intersections. Many elected officials believe that multi-way stop signs are a panacea for intersection safety problems because they promote speed control, accident reduction, and pedestrian safety. Even though the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices 1 has warrants for the application of multi-way stop control, in some cases, the political warrant is the only one that is met. Multi-way stop signs should ordinarily be used only where the intersecting road volumes are approximately equal. The MUTCD states that a stop sign should not be used for speed control. Research has indicated that stop signs installed to control speed do not result in speed reduction. And there's 4 different papers that are written that are referenced there that you are more than welcome to read. Also, studies have indicated that stop signs do not always result in increased safety, and there's a paper that was written on that for the Federal Highway Administration. Unwarranted stop signs increase stops, cause delays, and increase fuel consumption and pollutants. Further installation of unwarranted traffic control devices breeds disrespect for such devices and can result in potentially dangerous behavior. For these reasons, it is desirable to remove unwarranted and unneeded stop signs that hinder traffic flow rather than aid it. It also says that there was a recent study that indicates pedestrian and vehicle accidents may increase when certain traffic volumes, intersection configurations, and approach speeds are combined. And at the end of the paper, Prasad was one of the authors, and it says, Prasad's discussion of accounting for accident change due to chance agree with the author's intuition and strengthens the recommendation for a removal of unwarranted stop signs. So I'd like to look at that a little bit and point out that what I'm hearing from people is that we posted it at 15 miles an hour because we felt it was unsafe. We felt that a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, while safe for kindergartners to go across the street, is not safe for everybody else up at the sports complex during that month or two that they're there. I understand that. And you pointed out that they went to the flashing lights to let people know that that's when school is in session and that's when the crosswalks are going to have a lot more pedestrian traffic. And so that drops the speed limit during that time. The speed limit up there right now is 15 miles an hour, and there's no, the gates to the soccer field are locked. And so I'm guessing the stop sign was another reaction to the fact that people weren't abiding by the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit sign, that the traffic was still going faster than 15 miles an hour. And again, as this study pointed out, people tend to look at ridiculous things and completely ignore them and even go the other way. When you've got a speed limit at 15 miles an hour and there's not a soul in sight, it's really hard to justify that speed limit. And the warrant of a stop sign is also based on driver expectation. You know, the manual certainly, first and foremost, is looking at the vehicular safety, but it also has heavy sections on pedestrian traffic. And it encourages control of that pedestrian traffic at isolated locations. For example, in front of the hospital. As I said at the last meeting, I encounter way more pedestrian traffic at the hospital than I ever encounter at the soccer field or the ball fields. And by that aspect, your driver expectation isn't to be going down the road and then all of a sudden come to a stop sign where there's no traffic. That's why there's other advisory signs that are put with that. For example, if you're on a 60-mile-an-hour highway and you're coming up to a stop sign because there's an intersecting roadway or whatever that necessitates that stop, there's advanced warning signs that are put in place. Stop ahead. On non-through highways, we tend to put rumble bars in place. In fact, we just did a project statewide and cut hundreds of rumble bars throughout the state, similar to what we've got on the Veteran Highway, there at the junction at Silvertip. Those were some of the ones that we did in this area. Because you talked about inattentiveness of drivers, and you also have the inattentiveness of the pedestrians. You know, looking at this crosswalk thing gives me cause for concern a little bit in that pedestrians need to be mindful of the traffic. They need to not be looking at their cell phones and have their head down when they're walking across the highway or the street in this case. And so from those aspects, I guess I'm asking what steps we took to try to abate whatever massive problem that was out there for the short duration that the soccer fields and the ballparks are being occupied.
Buck, I explained to you some of the efforts that were put in place to try to get control of this. We talked about rumble bars, decided that that was not going to be effective because it was in the dirt. We increased police being on the site, and when the police are there, people slow down. When the police aren't there, people aren't paying attention. We talked about the dust in the air. We talked about all those problems before.
I understand that there were problems. I don't discount that there were problems. I'm talking about what solutions were attempted not what solutions
Well,
were
we
proposed.
increased the size of the stop sign to begin with. Matt, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure, we've looked at this a handful of times. A lot of it has been conversation between Ed Hawley and myself. A year and change ago, I guess, we were hearing a lot of complaints about the speed. The speed limit on that street has been 15 miles an hour since I've lived here. One of our concerns was that the sign was very small, and that folks weren't noticing it when they were entering the area of the soccer fields and the sports complex. So we increased the size of the speed limit sign and increased more patrol for officers. We got feedback from parks and officers and folks that lived in the area, and essentially that worked quite well when there was a police officer sitting there helping folks to pay close attention to the sign and be cautious about pedestrians, but not so much when they weren't present. Ed and I have talked about all manner of engineering controls that we could think of in terms of speed bumps, paving, sidewalks, all the other things that would be suitable for making that safe for the mix of cars and kids that are in that area. And frankly, those aren't really an option for us. We don't have the money, and the added inconvenience for Ed and his team of trying to maintain speed bumps or rumble bars on a dirt road is substantial and just not feasible for what we can pull off. Ed's welcome to pitch in on any of that because he certainly understands it better than I do. The end result for us is this was a very simple equation. We had tried the options that we felt were readily available, and we looked at the safety risk versus the imposition of adding the stop sign. That's measured in seconds on a 15-mile-per-hour roadway, and we felt like the addition of the stop sign was the right answer to try to help increase pedestrian and traffic safety in that location. It's a difficult situation because, as Mr. Klemola accurately points out, it's seasonal. It's not always predictable in terms of when that's going to be a problem with high quantities of cars and kids. But at the times when it is a problem, it's a fairly significant problem. And I can't have a police officer there every time there's a soccer match or whatever other sporting event that occurs to maintain the safety of those kids in the parking lot. So we decided to increase the signage for the 15 miles per hour so that it was more readily apparent for everyone. And we added the stop sign because we believed that added stop at the intersection would help folks to pay more attention, especially with limited visibility in the dust. So that was kind of our take on it. And Mr. Klemola is right. We didn't do any formal traffic study. That was a very basic common sense evaluation for us.
If I may, can I ask the chief a question or two? So I keep hearing the safety deal and worrying about safety and everything else. Could you tell me in the last 6 months how many crashes you've worked at the corner of Albany and Goshen or Washakie, or the corner of Albany and Laramie?
I have not personally investigated any, and I don't know if our officers have.
And what about pedestrian vehicle contacts during that same 6 months?
Aside from hearing about a lot of close calls, we have fortunately not had a child hit by a car there.
Okay. So I guess what I'm hearing again is a person's intuition as to what is safe and what isn't safe. And again, that's where the manual really comes into play. The studies and the manual and everything, people just didn't grab that out of thin air. There was a lot of work that was put into that, and it's a living document. It's constantly changing to fit the needs of the traveling public, because certainly the traveling public today is different than it was 100 years ago. And there's laws that have been changed because of that. You know, before you had to yield the right of way to a horse and buggy if you were in an auto. You know, and that's changed now for very good reason. And looking at, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mayor, may I for a second? I can appreciate the inconvenience that this causes you, but I log between 20 and 30 miles a week walking around this town, all over, up towards the hospital, out everywhere. And I can tell you there is a major problem with pedestrian and vehicle issues. I'm an adult. I'm not a child, and I can watch for cars, and I pay attention. I'm not on my phone. And I feel that this is rather than being an intervention, this is a preventative way for us to, there doesn't have, God forbid there is a pedestrian accident like we've recently had those in areas where there is a lower speed limit and there are stop signs and there are stop lights.
Lower than 15?
Well, okay, so it's 20, is it 20 in downtown? 20? It doesn't matter the speed.
Right.
What I'm saying is that there are other things that are stopping people and that are preventing and safety issues that are in place. I don't feel that adding a preventative measure, getting people to stop and to slow down, outweighs the inconvenience that it causes.
But the question is whether that's the appropriate preventative measure. As I said, there's
If I may, Mayor,
Go ahead.
signs that are designed for that.
Councilman
I
Patterson?
think the question comes down, why are you here? Why-
Okay, so,
Let me finish,
okay,
please.
I thought it was a question.
No, what I mean by that is, why has this become such an issue? We're not hearing this from anyone else, at least I don't believe so. Everybody I've talked to says, man, if you can put a sign in there and get that thing under control, whether, works or not, I guess we don't know. I hear you. Why? I know you live there.
There's
You
only
have
two
to
families.
stop twice a day? Is that really an inconvenience? I guess we could go on forever and discuss this stuff, but it's pointless. I will not vote to remove the sign.
Here's a perfect
I
example.
think we need to end the discussion, and I'll make
Yeah.
a motion.
Yeah, and Buck,
If I may, in closing, and respond to, because he asked a question, and I should be allowed to answer that
let's be
question.
quick about it, please.
I will. This last storm, you pointed out that we had a storm again, and watch out for the slick streets. That intersection, the street coming out of the Alzheimer's unit was sanded. Laramie Street was sanded. Albany going west was sanded. The gravel part wasn't sanded. 2 days ago, it was still solid ice. So when you came up to the stop sign, even at 5 miles an hour, you slid out into the intersection. So how is that safe? That's what I'm saying.
That's too
When-
fast for conditions if you're sliding through a sign.
What's that?
That's too fast for conditions if you're sliding through a sign.
When it's solid ice, how do you stop?
You slow down to begin with.
I did. 5 miles an hour is
Mayor,
slow.
I would move.
Yeah, okay.
Move the
Councilman
agenda.
Patterson?
I'd like to move the agenda. We need to
Okay.
be done with this. I would make a motion that the signs stay in place until there's some kind of full study left to the future administration to possibly look at. But for the time being, I would move to leave the sign in place.
Thank you. We have a motion in place. Is there a second?
I'll
I would
second.
second it, but I would like to,
Councilman Kelly, thank you. Go ahead.
I would like to hear from the resident that lives on that corner, what she thinks of that stop sign. Vicki?
I've lived in that house.
Can you
Vicki,
come
come
to
on
the
up,
mic?
podium, please.
Come to the mic, please, so we can hear you.
My name is Vicki Zimmer, and I live at 701 Albany, which is the corner of the intersection that we're discussing. When my husband and I moved back to Torrington, we bought the house that we live in that was built by the EWC construction class. It was December, and we didn't really realize the traffic that was going to go in front of our house come spring. So when I noticed that this increased traffic did not drive the 15 miles per hour, as was the stated sign, but often go 40 miles an hour. And so over the years, I have tried to get the different police chiefs to do different things. Barricades during the games. I asked for chlorine magnesium to be put down. And then 3 weeks later, they laid a new layer of gravel, which negated that. So I've asked for, the bigger stop sign or the bigger
Speed limit.
speed limit sign. That didn't seem to help at all. But over the years, I've asked every chief to do something about that. I'm concerned about the dirt that sweeps up when the traffic goes too fast. It has changed my house from white to pink. I see more and more children that are walking to games. In the summertime, families walk with their dogs and their small children. When you're going 25 or 30 or 40 miles an hour, you cannot stop if somebody jumps out in front of the cars that are parked in front of, like, my neighbor's house. I felt that this was probably the last idea that we would come up with that would be logical, is to put up those 4 stop signs. 2 were already there, to put up the other 2. Now, I have noticed, since they've been up, and they went up very quickly after I asked Matt Johnson if that could be done, and he spoke with Ed Hawley, and they agreed that this would be a feasible solution, that some people continue to drive right through those signs, don't pay any attention to them. Some kind of slide down, slow down, and slide through. And some actually do stop, which I really think that that's great. Now, my husband and I are also affected by those signs, and we do stop. Because I think that if the stop sign is there, although there are a lot of people who drive on Albany Street and come to stop signs, do not stop. But I think that this is the best solution that we can have, not only for the speed of my neighbors, but also for the children in the summertime.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councilman Kelly, did you have a comment?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. We do have a motion on the floor and a second to leave the stop signs as is. Further discussion? Buck?
No?
Okay. Council? Okay, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We unanimously have approved leaving them where they're at. Thank you for the information.
Thank you, and now we comply with ordinance 10.04.01.
Thank you. All right, moving along. Item number 2, ordinance on second reading. Attorney Eddington.
An ordinance amending and reenacting Section 18.16.020 of the Torrington Municipal Code, 2022 revisions relating to the city of Torrington, Wyoming, amending the zoning district map by establishing C1 zoning for attractive land.
Thank you. We understand this is second reading. We had the same thing November 15th, so on. Mr. Estes, would you have any comments, anything that we should be considering that we haven't heard before?
No, sir, there's no public comment. Staff are met.
Okay. Ed, have you heard anything?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, what we're talking about is changing changing the zoning at the old Wagner's Floral Shop location. For years, for some reason, it has been zoned as residential. Now that it's being sold, it needs to be put into correct zone. So the whole point of this is to move from residential zoning to a commercial zoning. Would that be correct?
Correct.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions or concerns?
No.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
I would move to approve this ordinance on second reading.
Councilman Kinney, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Councilman Patterson, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance on second reading, moving from a residential zone to a business zone. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have approved ordinance on second reading. Item number 3, ordinance on second reading. Attorney Eddington.
An ordinance amending and reenacting Section 3.04.050 of the Torrington Municipal Code, 2022 revisions relating to sanitation fees.
Okay, very good. Again, this is second reading. We had the same thing November 15th. Have we heard any comments, concerns from the community about this? Nothing?
I have not.
Okay. Mr. Estes, anything?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Harkins, would you like to elaborate a little bit, please?
What we did was try to clean up the sanitation fee ordinance by making things a little bit easier for our staff to be able to identify and charge the correct rates. Some of the software at the landfill wasn't compatible with the way the ordinance was written, so we changed it to a per pound, like 4 cents per pound charge out at the landfill. That's all going to be a lot easier for the staff. There are no more minimum charges, so we don't have to figure out if they've reached the minimum, what's the charge after that, and we just simplified things. We added a few things that weren't in the previous ordinance as far as, I think antifreeze wasn't included previously. The solid or fuel surcharge for any deliveries or pickups that exceed 5-mile radius of the corporate limits wasn't in there before. I think tires weren't in there specifically either. So, I mean, we added a few things that needed to be added and simplified a lot of other stuff.
As I read it, it simply clarifies the charges that we'd be able to make and makes it a lot simpler for our staff to understand what the charge should be.
That was the intent.
Okay? Ed, do you have any comment? Okay. Council, any questions? Or concerns? Or comments? Okay. We'll entertain a motion.
I would move to approve on second reading.
Councilman Patterson, thank you. We have a motion on, to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilwoman Steinbach, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance on second reading related to sanitation fees. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have approved that. Item number 4, to award the bid, new crane and dump body. Staff recommends awarding the bid to Shell Equipment LLC of Littleton, Colorado in the amount of $90,625. And our staff reference, we have Lynette, who is our clerk treasurer, and Ed. So Lynette, you want to take it?
Sure. We opened bids on November 30th. We had 2 bids, one from Shell Equipment LLC for $90,625, and one from Coyce Brothers Equipment for $123,938. There were 2 factors we looked at. First, it was the low bid, and the delivery time is 45 to 60 days, compared to 450 days from Coyce Brothers. If you remember, we bid this project as with a pickup in earlier this year, and it came in well over budget. So we decided to do a partial award on the pickup for the $66,740, and then go out for bid for just the crane and the dump body. So we did that, and it did come in significantly lower than the original bid, but it is still a little bit over budget, which it is so hard right now to even try. Prices are changing so quickly. We would like to continue with this bid. It is a needed piece of equipment for our streets and sanitation department. And so we would like to recommend the award of this bid. So it'll actually be split between this year and next year's budget. We should receive the crane and dump body this year, but the pickup is still out into FY24. So I'd be glad to answer any questions.
So I just have a question. This is the truck with the crane that you use to move dumpsters, is that right, Ed?
Yes.
Okay, move dumpsters around,
Yeah.
place them and pick them up.
Place them, pick them up.
Okay.
Damaged, repaired, picking up mattresses and couches that get,
Okay.
Why is there such a discrepancy between the delivery dates of these 2 bids? Any idea? I have no clue. I know that the Snell Equipment has it in Greeley, Colorado.
It's an inventory. Mhm.
It's in inventory. And then this installation is included in the bid price, correct?
Yes.
And where will the additional money come from? What budget?
It'll be fine for this year's budget. We have 138 budgeted for the pickup and the crane and dump body. combining the two bids now, we're over $19,365. So this year, we will use this year we will use $90,625. And then next year, I'll have to increase and bid the pickup for $66,740.
Okay.
I don't know, I have a problem thinking about spending $90,000 for a piece of equipment with nothing to put it on for another year and a half.
It's a strange
I know the
time.
inflation factor in there,
I don't
but-
know how to fix it.
Yeah, I know. Because that bid for that truck went out in September, I think it
Yeah,
was.
October, yeah.
And it said 550 calendar days. Well, that's I assume that we'll get the truck, but
I agree with you, but I'm afraid to wait, if we wait, the price isn't gonna go down.
no.
I don't know if you have any other suggestions, we'd be glad to hear them. We as a staff are in times we've never been in before. Not quite sure how to get our equipment here.
Well, it's
and
not
get
just
it.
equipment, it's everything else.
It's everything else too, supplies. It's a strange budgeting time.
Any other comments or concerns? Okay, I guess we would entertain a motion.
I would move to approve the bid for $90,625 to Shell
Councilwoman
Equipment.
Steinbach, thank you. Is there a second? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Kenny, thank you. A motion and a second to award the bid for the new crane and dump body to Shell Equipment of Littleton, Colorado, in the amount of $90,625.
Just have one more question.
Go ahead.
You bet.
Where is since its delivery is 45 to 60 days, where are they going to keep this? Are they going to keep this in Colorado, or are they going to bring it up here? We take delivery of it, or what?
It'll stay in Colorado and gives inventory.
It's going to stay in the inventory in Colorado?
Yes. And when the truck gets here, it'll go to come to his facility to be installed.
I think I'd feel a lot better if it was in our possession instead of theirs for that long a period of time.
I guess I'd look at the freighting it up and freighting it back.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I suppose it wouldn't be unusual for them to sell the particular one that we're talking about and replace it and replace it and replace it. And pretty soon, by the time we're ready, they'll have one in inventory and we'll get it when it's time.
That's kind of the way I would look at it, yeah.
I expect, they're not just gonna sit there and for a year and a half or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know how many of those they have need to get, but that's all I have.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have approved the bid. Okay, item number 5, performance evaluations and merit increase request. Clerk Treasurer Stricker.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Attached to your agenda is a memo which goes through the results of our merit increase. It's a lengthy process. It starts in September, and it'll end in January when they get their raises. But as outlined in our policy, we went through all of the evaluations. The committee went through them all. And they are now in the process of meeting with employees in regards to their performance evaluations. The turnout was very similar to last year. It's amazing how close it was. We had 13 employees that were extraordinary, 32 employees that exceed expectation, 30 employees that fully meet expectation, 12 employees that meet expectation, 2 employees that do not fully meet expectations, and no employees that do not at all meet expectations. There were 91 evaluations. The average performance score was 3.94 out of 5, and the median is 4 out of 5. The average merit increase is estimated at 71 cents per hour. If you approve the budget tonight, it will cost approximately $84,440. I had budgeted $88,689 in this year's budget, so very close, but I did a really good job of keeping that within a couple $1,000s, so. And we really want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to do this process. We believe it holds the supervisors accountable, and it's a good process. So, and then, do you have any comments, Rick?
Yeah, I just, for the record, because I think I did this last year too, I serve on this committee, and we've got 2 employees that are not meeting expectations, and the question always is, well, why are they here, right? What that is, I believe one's at the police department and one, I can't remember the other department, doesn't matter. These are brand-new employees that are still in the training stage. So it's not that they're problem employees or not doing the work or whatever. It's that they're not fully up to speed because they're new employees. So.
Thank you. And I could add, as mayor, it's always an interesting process, and this is my 4th year doing it. And it's good for the staff as motivation and so on. But another side thing that is really significant is, and I've noticed this more every year, is that this actually forces our supervisors to go one-on-one with our staff and talk about their successes and their failures and their places where they can improve and all those kinds of things that need to really happen. Probably more often than we do, but this, at least this strategy makes a big difference, and it helps that we do that. So congrats on moving through that. Very good. Any other comments?
I do want to comment about what Councilman Patterson said, because I think it's important for the public to understand that these aren't gold brick kind of people. They're actually working, trying to get where they need to be. And I think that's really important for that to be said every time we go through this, because it's people that are new, and they're trying to do the job they've been asked to do. So thank you for doing that. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Any other comments or concerns or questions? Very good. I'd entertain a motion.
I would move to approve the performance evaluation and merit increase request.
Councilman Kenny, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Councilman Patterson, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the performance evaluation and merit increase request. Is there further comments? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have approved the merit increase.
That's really good.
Yeah, super. Very good. Item number 6, approval of the bills from November 16th, 22 to 12/06/22. Clerk Treasurer Strecker.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Attached to your agenda were a list of bills. I'd be glad to answer any questions. I also handed out an additional set tonight. Just let me know if you have any questions.
Mayor,
Go ahead, Rick.
the only question I have, and it's probably for Ed, it might be for Dennis, on page 3, EP Construction, rework East B and 27th due to vandalism. I know EP Construction does cement work. What?
He had poured some crosswalks, handicaps, just north of here, and kids got into it, they also got caught.
Okay.
They took EPA, a little work to get it straightened out.
Okay, thank you. I kind of thought maybe that's what it was, but thank you.
Nice.
The only question I have is on this first set, the second page, the City of Torrington Platte Valley Bank East K bond payment. What would that be for?
We have a local improvement district bond for that paving of that street. And so the city pays that bond and collects those assessments from the landowners in that area. We do that once a year, every December 1st.
Any other questions? Well, Ed, I mentioned this morning in our staff meeting that I was concerned that I thought Peak Wellness was defunct, and we have a bill to Peak Wellness on page 5, and I thought it had been moved to VOA, but it's still in the account of Peak Wellness. Is that correct?
I believe so. That is a credit refund on a utility account, and I believe it is still in Peak Wellness's name. So that's who we refunded.
Okay. Okay.
I would move to approve payment of the bill.
Thank you, Councilman Patterson. We have a motion to approve payment of the bills.
I'll second.
Councilwoman Stein.
Is there a second?
I'll
Councilwoman
second.
Councilman Steinbach, thank you. Have a motion and a second to approve the payment of the bills. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have paid the bills. Did I sign that, both of them? I didn't sign them
You
both.
didn't sign that one.
You didn't sign this.
He only takes precedence on that one.
And I mess up one time, that screws everybody up.
Okay. Sorry for the delay. These guys are making me work awfully fast. Thank you. All right, next item is public comment at this time. I think it's important, and we've been doing this for quite a few years now, that if there are people here who would like to address the city council, have questions, have concerns, want to point out something that possibly we haven't discussed or something that you think is significant, this is a good time to do it. If you are somebody who would like to do that, please approach the podium. We'll give you a couple minutes. We don't want you to write a book up there, but at the same time, we do want to hear what you have to say. So if there's anybody here tonight who would like to address the council, please come to the podium. I always got to look at Lance, and he doesn't seem like he's eager to get up again. I saw your report, Lance. It didn't look like there's much going on. Thanks for coming up.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So far, knock on wood, everything's pretty good in the fire world right now. Nothing major has happened yet for the month. Some small stuff here and there. We helped Chief Johnson with parade last Friday. We're also going to help this Friday with Shop with a Cop. They do the shopping, and then we transport the children usually from Baumgars to the Elks, where they do the Christmas wrapping and eat some of the food. So, and then we'll be doing where we go visit the schools with Santa Claus and do that before the end of the year, before school gets out. So kind of some community service stuff we're working on. So that's kind of what's happening in the fire world. So, anyone have any questions?
Well, I had a note to myself to speak about the Torrington Volunteer Fire Department and all the things that you do for the community above and beyond putting out fires. I mean, year-round, you are leading the state champion Little League team up and down Main Street, or you're doing something, you're downtown with sparks, smoke, whatever, you know, all those kinds of things. You're doing all kinds of things. And so it's an incredible gift to the community that this volunteer fire department sacrifices time, does it for nothing, volunteers to do all these kinds of things that benefit the community. And so congratulations, and we commend you for doing it. And being chief, you know, you got to get some of the credit. So congratulations, appreciate it.
Thank you, and we appreciate all the support we get from the city, and we have a good group right now. I think we've got a solid group and active, and it's kind of fun right now, so.
Very good.
Good.
Thank you,
Lance.
guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, I guess we'll end it with that. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Councilman Steinbach, we have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Patterson, thank you. We have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate your attendance.